Alrighty guys, Matt back here with a video for y'all. Appreciate y'all for watching this. I know I'm a little bit late posting this today. Had some stuff to get done. We're here, we're functioning, we're doing the thing. We got a lot to talk about, guys. We have a significant severe weather outbreak across the central and northern plains tomorrow. We got sporadic severe weather ongoing. You can kind of see the outlook on your screen today. It changed a lot since last night, since we were on stream last night. We got a lot going on. We got the tropics. We're watching a potential now invest area in the major development region that could become a named storm and potentially come into the Gulf of Mexico here as we get into next week for the 4th of July week. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about as far as things go, guys. And we might potentially do a live stream tonight if things do, in fact, start to go a little bit crazy. We were on live yesterday for 2 hours, and the amount of missed calls by the National Weather Service, if y'all were watching that stream, were beyond crazy. We had a tornado situation in Nebraska last night where a tornado was on the ground for over 20 minutes and confirmed by people before it actually got tornado warned on radar and by the National Weather Service in the area of, I believe, of Whitman, Nebraska. Got hit pretty hard with that tornado last night. So thoughts and prayers go out to anybody that was impacted by that in last night's storms. We had an 80-mile-an-hour wind warning. Multiple storms were in Oklahoma last night on a marginal risk day. And then we had multiple 90-mile-an-hour wind warnings in Iowa last night. And then we just had a lot going on last night. So, guys, I do want to say that on this end of things, if you get a risk of severe weather, whether it's a level 1 all the way to level 5, you need to be aware of what could happen. And, you know, most of the time, the marginal risk zones, they do produce marginal risk weather, but we do have that occasional couple times where they can produce significant severe weather when it's not expected. And so the National Weather Service isn't perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody that predicts the weather isn't perfect. Y'all know this. So just be mindful if you get a risk zone going forward, 1 to 5, marginal to high, whatever it is, take it seriously. Because like I said, what happened last night was just atrocious. And, you know, the National Weather Service, I'm hoping here soon, will get their issues fixed. They've had a lot of server issues. That's why the warnings have not been issued. We did actually launch NASA last night, or not last night, yesterday afternoon, launched a rocket into the atmosphere, basically for meteorologists to have better warning times, hopefully, with these warnings. So we'll have that up and going. There's a lot of different things that are going on in the weather world that are trying to improve warning times. So just kind of bear with us, guys, as we kind of get ready, you know, and continue this severe weather season here. So got a lot to talk about. But other than that, with that being said, we'll talk about what's going on right now. We do have multiple areas of severe weather. We've got multiple warnings ongoing right now. Like I said, I might get on live stream this afternoon if this starts to, you know, get a little bit crazier as far as that goes intensity. We have a marginal risk of severe weather today back into Idaho. This is for hail and wind. We're expecting small wind stuff there. You can see a couple warnings there for wind and hail. Be mindful of that. We do have a marginal risk and a slight risk of severe weather, level 1 and level 2 here in Colorado, Wyoming, parts of the Central Plains here. We've got northern Texas. We've got western Kansas, Nebraska. This is also going to be wind and hail. There's not really a tornado potential today, although I say that, and there could be a brief tornado spin up really anywhere when you have severe weather. I say that a lot just to kind of put that out there because it can happen as of yesterday. We have remnants of a line of storms that have been pushing through since Kansas and Nebraska last night, all the way down here into Louisiana. Have a level 1 and a level 2 slight risk and marginal risk down here for wind and hail as well. We just got a couple severe thunderstorm watches that were also issued, but we have a low that's finally going to be pushing through the cold front here into the northeast corridor and Ohio Valley. Wind and hail, a brief spin-up tornado cannot be ruled out anywhere in West Virginia, Pennsylvania. I really think anywhere in the slight risk area, we could see a potential maybe brief spin-up tornado, but I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. And so, like I said, that's why we may live stream, we may not. If this does need to be streamed, we'll get on it stream later on tonight, this afternoon for this event. But like I said, today is more of a wind and hail day. You know, like I said, we'll have that brief chance for a tornado or two. As far as tomorrow goes, tomorrow's a way bigger day, and the National Weather Service did go ahead and upgrade tomorrow to a level 3 enhanced risk out of 5 for severe weather. And tomorrow's setup actually looks pretty volatile. And I use that word because we're going to have a pretty volatile air mass once again, high instability, dew points, a pretty strong dry line enhancement here. You can see that orange shaded enhanced risk now given from parts of central and northern Nebraska. This is where that tornado happened last night. It was not warned properly, so this is an area we'll be covering again tomorrow. But that level 3 enhanced risk goes all the way from eastern Montana through western and central parts of North Dakota, South Dakota, and into Nebraska. Level 2 risk in the yellow extends into Montana down to Kansas, and level 1 risk all across the board in multiple parts of the central, northern, and west Pacific here. So this is something we'll be watching for. We also have a marginal risk of severe weather in North and South Carolina tomorrow with that trailing cold front pushing through with a chance of wind and hail. Now, tomorrow we will be live. I will set that time frame tomorrow once I get up and post this video. I'm thinking anywhere after, 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon will be the time that we go live for this event. But beware, guys, the tornado risk is actually pretty decent tomorrow. We have a 2 and a 5% tornado risk for tomorrow. Anybody in that green shaded color from Kansas all the way up to Billings, Montana there, seeing a 2% chance of a tornado within a 25-mile radius of a given point. We have a 5% chance of a tornado in that maroon striped area there from Rapid City into Dickinson. We've got Williston, North Dakota there, all the way down here into parts of North Platte, Nebraska, once again, where that tornado happened at in Nebraska last night. And speaking of that, one more quick thing on that. We did get wind readings of about 180 miles an hour in that tornado last night that was in the Whitman area, Nebraska. That would be EF4 winds, but because of the damage, it's not going to be EF4 damage. I'll just tell you guys that as of right now. Once we find out more on what happened with that last night, I'll give that details to you guys as soon as I know. But you guys are under the gun again in that area that got hit pretty hard last night. And the wind threat is really what we're going to be talking about. We have a 5, a 15, and a 30% wind threat for tomorrow. Now, this black hatched line area, this hatched area with the white tick marks, this is a 15 and a 30% chance in the red and yellow area there's hatched of seeing 80-mile-an-hour winds or higher. Now, that is a pretty big deal because we saw that a lot last night. We saw the power outages in parts of Iowa and Omaha saw it. Parts of Oklahoma City were without power last night with this, so this is kind of that same setup, except it's actually being predicted this time. So be mindful of that here tomorrow. Like I said, we'll be on here covering this for you guys tomorrow. Anybody outside the hatched area, 30% in the red, 15 in the yellow, 5 in the maroon has a chance of seeing 60, 70, and 75-mile-an-hour winds. Could see a couple storms higher than that, depending on what happens. We also have very large hail in the forecast for tomorrow. Anybody in that hatched 15% area there, and that white with the white tick marks, has a chance to see 2.5 to 4 inch plus hail. That apple size are bigger, tennis ball size are bigger, and then outside of the hatched area, yellow and 5% there, and 15%, we have a chance of 1 to 2 inch hail. And then down here on the coastline, we have a chance for some small hail as well. Now, what does that look like going forward as well as we go into the Friday time frame as we get closer to the weekend? This front will have to come through at some point, and we do have another risk of severe weather on Friday for your last official weekend of June here. Getting out there and trying to enjoy the weekend, guys, on Friday. Be mindful we'll have a slight risk and a marginal risk of severe weather that extends from all of Minnesota into parts of Wisconsin. Again, we're really going to be bullseying again, once again, sadly, southern Iowa, southeastern Nebraska, northeastern Kansas, northern and central Missouri. It's really, guys, it's really heartbreaking. The dam situation that's ongoing in Iowa still. It looks to be that water levels are receding. I did see an update on that this morning as well, but just it's the same areas over and over and over again. And that's what this July pattern is going to set up to be potentially. We're going to have the same thing. We're going to have a ridge in the west. We're going to have trough ejections down south in the Ohio Valley and the Midwest. This is going to continue to be a problem as we go throughout much of the summer here and potentially even into the fall with that El Nino pattern switching over. So be mindful. We got more severe weather to come. We will probably have some more severe weather day 4 through day 8. It's not been issued yet by the Storm Prediction Center, but I just wanted to give you guys a highlighted area on that. We'll go ahead and talk about timing here, and then I'll get to talk about what we're looking at going forward and then the tropics. As far as what we're looking at here going forward, guys, we'll just kind of start over here in the marginal risk zone. You can see general afternoon thunderstorms here with wind and hail will be a pretty good possibility. Those will be gone after sunset. And then watching storms here in that slight risk and that marginal risk here into the Rockies and into the western part of the Central Plains here, just general thunderstorms, wind and hail. Watching that line push down here into parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, Gulf states. That line will be pushed through by this afternoon. And then watching these storms that come through here into Kentucky and the Ohio Valley Northeast, that draping cold front will be pushing east. You could see a couple supercells fire off here between now and I think sunset that could produce a brief tornado or two. So we'll be watching for this potential. Brief spin up tornadoes can, be a problem. So be mindful of that, guys. Heavy rainfall down here into southern Kentucky, northern Tennessee potentially as well with that front moving through. And then this thing is gone and out of here, and we reset the atmosphere again tomorrow for the new set threat of severe weather, which is where we'll be seeing the potential for maybe some strong tornadoes or two, very, very large hail, extremely dangerous wind gusts, and you can kind of see up and down the board. Model's still trying to figure out what's going to happen with this tomorrow, but that initiation of the northern and central plains with the dry line setup here with a couple supercells with some strong winds up to 80, maybe higher than that. Damaging winds will be the big factor, like I said, hail and tornadoes. This will be starting around after lunchtime tomorrow between 2 and I think 4 p.m. And then this will start to kind of work its way east. And then by midnight to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, this starts to quiet down. And then we'll reload the atmosphere again for your Friday. And we'll talk more about that here later on. Now, I do want to talk about another thing in the tropics really, really quickly here. And we'll talk more about the tropics in just a second. But we do have still a 10 and a 20% chance here of this storm developing, or this area of invest here that we're watching near the Gulf of Mexico, Bay of Campeche here as well. 10% chance of this becoming a named storm in 2 days, 20 and 7. That's not the one we're watching. We have a brand new area that came out yesterday, and this has been upgraded once again to a 40% chance of become our next storm, which would be Tropical System Beryl. That's the next name on the list here in the Atlantic. If we do get a named storm, which I do think this is going to continue to increase. We've talked a lot about the potential for Saharan dust that'll be tracking its way from Africa to the Gulf of Mexico next week. If this storm can stay ahead of that area of Saharan dust, this can develop. This could be potentially a pretty big situation as we get into next week. The European model, guys, I'll just straight up tell you right now, is showing a full-blown hurricane in the Caribbean Sea next week. So this is something we're going to watch. The European model didn't grab onto our last tropical system until late. GFS was kind of showing stuff. It's kind of flip-flop now, where the European model is showing a full-blown hurricane, which is not what we want to see, potentially making its way into the Gulf of Mexico late next week and then into the second week of July. That's something we'll watch as well. But this is going to be our big area to watch. These major development regions, they do typically produce majority of our landfalling storms in the United States. So this is when we see this pop up and we see this happen and we see those chances getting higher, we start to get concerned of where is this going to go. And there's endless options on where this potentially could go once it does develop. By the 2 o'clock advisory, by the way, this afternoon, guys, 2 p.m. advisory, we do have Invest 92L, I think is what it was. I'll have to double check on that one to make sure. But we'll go ahead and talk about the models here, and I'll give you guys kind of what the rundown is on going forward here with this whole situation. And like I said, where are we going to be watching out, with, going forward into next week for your July 4th holiday? You can see that ridge that is going to be setting up here, and it's still setting up here over the central and southern plains, and in the 4 corners here, continuing to see these trough ejections work their way up and over the ridge and down the ridge, continuing to see severe weather for the central, northern Ohio Valley and Midwest. And then this will have another trough ejection potentially this coming weekend, where we could see more severe weather on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Tomorrow's Thursday, so we're already getting into that. And then as we go into the first official week of July for your July 4th holiday, it looks to be potentially less active. And I say that if you're in the Ohio Valley, it looks to be pretty good so far. We'll probably have some general afternoon thunderstorms with this ridge breaking down, and some new trough ejections will be entering the United States as we go into late next week. You can see maybe even a tropical system on the coast of the Carolinas potentially. But what we're really going to be watching for is just going to be the heat, I think, as we go into next week, and then maybe a couple disturbances. But look on the bottom of the screen, guys. The European run now for about almost 2 days has been kind of showing the potential for this hurricane, whatever you want to call it, that could potentially be something next week. And we'll talk about that here as well in just a quick second. Just generally looking at your precip and where the precip could be at over the next couple of days. You can see the Ohio Valley, Midwest, a couple areas down in the southeast potentially see some rainfall. We need the rainfall in a lot of areas, and it looks to be it's going to stick over the central northern plains and Ohio Valley. So we'll go ahead and get to that tropic forecast here for you guys real quick. And like I said, we're going to continue to talk more about this as it does develop. But like I said, we're watching for that 40% development chance down here into that major development region. This is typically not active until we get toward like August and September. So the fact that we're already getting that major development region here in the eastern Atlantic to get going is a little bit more concerning. And the water temperatures out here are very, very much above average, very warm. Like I said, if this storm can stay away from that Saharan dust, away from that strong bulk shear that'll be over the ocean, this could have a pretty decent chance at becoming a pretty big storm next week. This is something, like I said, we're going to watch. You can see the, here's the latest couple European model runs. You can see that low taking off. We could have a tropical depression or a named storm by this weekend as we get closer to that Sunday, Monday time frame. And, at this point, as we get into next week, where is this going to go? Where's the steering of this potential system going to be? You got a pretty dominant high pressure up there near Bermuda, northeast of Bermuda, and you can see this could go one of two ways. You've got or 3 ways here. You've got one turn up into the Bahamas, you got one going into the Gulf, another one going into just in general, Mexico, southern Mexico over there. So that's something we're going to watch. The ensembles are kind of in some agreement, but not really. And that's typical for this time. But you can see this rapid intensification process of potentially a major hurricane next weekend for your first weekend of July. And this is still ways out. Don't get flip about it. Don't get nervous or anything about this, guys. We'll keep you guys updated on the situation. But it is that time of the year where hurricane season is going to start to get going here. So I do appreciate you guys for watching this. We might do live coverage tonight. We might not. We will definitely be live tomorrow. I'll give you guys the time on that once we get that video posted tomorrow morning. Other than that, guys, if you're out in these storms today, be weather aware, be safe, have a way to get alerts on your phones. Anything can happen when you have a weather situation going on. So just be mindful of that. I don't want anybody to be surprised or taken, like for granted or anything. So all right, y'all, I will see y'all later, either in tomorrow morning or tonight. Be safe, y'all, be weather aware, and I'll talk to you guys later.